The 10th house, Karma Bhava, career, status, public life, Gemini Rising, Part 1, the mind that must materialize vision. Gemini Rising enters life with quick wit, versatility, and an unending appetite for knowledge and communication. Ruled by Mercury, these natives are natural connectors, thinkers, and messengers. But when it comes to the 10th house, Karma Bhava, they meet Pisces, a sign ruled by Jupiter and co-ruled by Ketu. Here, the intellectual must become intuitive, the fact finder must evolve into a faith holder, and the rational mind must learn to lead through imagination, compassion, and higher vision. Pisces in the 10th house asks Gemini Rising to transcend the metrics and mind games of success. Their public life is not meant to follow a linear path. It is a spiritual calling disguised as vocation. Here, karma is not about status, it's about surrender. Career success will not come from cleverness alone, but from their ability to align with something greater than themselves. Pisces in the 10th, the Dharma of inspired service. Pisces infuses the 10th house with sensitivity, vision, and a mystical sense of purpose. For Gemini Rising, this brings careers that are fluid, imaginative, and emotionally resonant. They are not here to execute the world's expectations. They are here to infuse the world with meaning. This placement favors professions in healing, spirituality, arts, film, social work, or any vocation where inner calling surpasses outer form. Public recognition may feel elusive or shifting. Their karmic role often unfolds through non-traditional, even invisible contributions, counseling, teaching, creative direction, or behind-the-scenes influence. They rise not by assertion, but by alignment. Their greatest contribution is not clarity, but inspiration. Jupiter and Ketu as lords, the educator must become the mystic. With Jupiter as the ruler and Ketu as the co-ruler, the 10th house becomes a sacred field of inner authority and detachment. If Jupiter is strong, Gemini Rising brings immense wisdom into public service, compassionate leadership, ethical vision, and the ability to uplift through teaching or creativity. If Ketu is integrated, they carry a quiet power, a mystical detachment that keeps their work humble and soul-driven. But if Jupiter is afflicted, they may chase ungrounded visions or become trapped in idealism. If Ketu dominates without maturity, they may reject responsibility, avoid visibility, or float through life without anchoring their purpose. Evolution comes when they marry vision with discipline, bringing dreams to earth without dissolving into them. From message to meaning. The 10th house teaches Gemini Rising that public life is not just performance or productivity, it is spiritual alignment in action. Pisces demands they stop defining success through comparison and start recognizing the value of subtle contribution. Their role is to remind the world of imagination, unity, healing, and the unseen. This is a karmic path of compassion over control, empathy over ego. They are not here to follow charts. They are here to write poetry into systems, to bring the emotional soul back into worldly structures. Activation years and turning points. The 10th house activates for Gemini Rising at ages 10, 22, 34, 46, 58, 70, and 82. These years often mark spiritual revelations, career redirections, or emotional reckonings through vocation. At 22 or 34, they may enter artistic or healing professions or feel called to make work more meaningful. At 46 or 58, they may step into roles of wise guidance, teachers of the heart, mentors of the invisible, or compassionate visionaries. Each activation year whispers the same lesson. Your work must matter to the soul, not just the resume. From intelligence to illumination. Ultimately, Pisces in the 10th house teaches Gemini Rising that real success is not calculated, it is consecrated. That authority is not claimed, it is channeled. And that karma is not a ladder to climb, but a river to merge into. This is the path where the communicator becomes the healer, where intellect dissolves into intuition, and where Gemini Rising, born to think, finally learns that the most powerful message is the one delivered through presence. The 10th house, or Karma Bhava, career, status, public life, Gemini Rising. 8 most defining conjunctions in Pisces, where intellect meets intuition and the career becomes a sacred offering. For Gemini Rising, the 10th house falls in Pisces, a dream-laced, dissolving domain where logic is dethroned by vision and purpose demands emotional depth over mental agility. Here, Mercury's analytical speed must soften into Jupiter's wisdom and Ketu's subtle detachment. These natives are challenged to stop proving and start perceiving. The following 8 conjunctions in Pisces aren't just milestones in public life. They are initiations where career dissolves into calling, and the professional persona gives way to soulful contribution. Sun and Jupiter, inspired leadership or inflated idealism. This exalted blend unites purpose with wisdom. For Gemini Rising, it can place them in luminous positions of ethical leadership, spiritual guidance, or creative influence. If benefic, it produces mentors, philanthropic organizers, or artistic directors, those who lead with vision and generosity. If afflicted, it may inflate moral superiority, lead to escapist leadership, or blur the line between self-image and divine mission. Dharma grounds when they lead through service, not spectacle. Sun and Ketu, ego dissolution or quiet power. This conjunction strips identity of false status, pushing Gemini Rising toward humble influence and subtle leadership. If benefic, it grants spiritual gravitas, intuitive knowing, and public roles that require invisibility, like healers, monks, or soulful creatives. If afflicted, it may cause career confusion, status avoidance, or detachment from goals. Evolution begins when they release the need to be seen and allow truth to express through stillness. Jupiter and Venus, sacred aesthetics or moral sentimentality. This graceful pairing merges spiritual values with emotional beauty. For Gemini Rising, it supports careers in the arts, education, healing, or spiritual commerce. If benefic, it creates soulful creators, compassionate counselors, or visionary designers. If afflicted, it may romanticize beliefs, blur ethical boundaries, or idealize success without grounding. Karma balances when they recognize beauty as a tool for elevation, not escape. Jupiter and Mercury, mystic mind or dispersed wisdom. A classic contradiction for Gemini Rising. The logical mind meets the expansive guru. If benefic, it births intuitive philosophers, inspired teachers, or articulate mystics, those who translate the ineffable. If afflicted, it causes confusion between intellect and intuition, or a tendency to preach what isn't lived. They mature when they honor both head and heart, and use words to illuminate, not intellectualize, divine experience. Jupiter and Rahu, divine expansion or spiritual inflation. This conjunction intensifies the hunger for spiritual recognition or mystical power. For Gemini Rising, it may manifest as obsession with gurus, new age careers, or unconventional paths to visibility. If benefic, they become pioneers of spiritual reform or teachers of transcendent insight. If afflicted, it may bring false gurus, spiritual bypassing, or delusions of grandeur. Dharma deepens when they seek not mystical status, but soul growth through surrender. Venus and Ketu, detached love or creative withdrawal. This sensitive blend invites devotional minimalism. For Gemini Rising, it may foster careers where beauty heals, poetry, music, dance, or spiritual art. If benefic, they become creators who carry ancient grace, expressing the ineffable. If afflicted, they may avoid material success, struggle with value recognition, or create from wounded romanticism. Their healing begins when they accept that what they create is not for applause, but for resonance. Mercury and Neptune, modern overlap, channeling or confusion. Though Neptune isn't traditional, its Piscean influence is critical here. For Gemini Rising, this conjunction can activate psychic communication, artistic flow, or spiritual storytelling. If benefic, it produces lyrical communicators, mystic writers, or intuitive guides. If afflicted, it may bring deception, vagueness, or speaking without clarity. Karma evolves when they honor silence as much as speech and let intuition guide articulation. Jupiter and Ketu, the hermit guide or disillusioned teacher. This deeply spiritual conjunction strips outer doctrine to reveal inner truth. For Gemini Rising, it calls them into roles of quiet guidance, detachment from titles, and teaching through presence. If benefic, they become rare mystics, non-attached leaders, or wise wanderers. If afflicted, it may result in guru complexes, rejection of career identity, or confusion about public role. Dharma clarifies when they realize their greatest contribution is often wordless, and their authority is the silence after insight. In summary, Pisces in the 10th house calls Gemini Rising to release the map and follow the muse. These conjunctions do not merely alter career, they dissolve identity until only essence remains. Here, karma is not about titles, it's about transparency. They are not here to achieve, they are here to attune. This is where the intellect becomes the channel, where the talker becomes the healer, and where Gemini Rising, long married to words, learns that their deepest success will come when they speak from the soul, not the script. The 10th house, Karma Bhava, career, status, public life, Libra Rising, Part 1, the diplomat that must lead with depth. Libra Rising walks into life with elegance, harmony, and a refined sensitivity to relationships. Ruled by Venus, these natives are attuned to aesthetics, fairness, and the art of connection. They move through the world balancing grace with discernment, often avoiding extremes. But when it comes to the 10th house, Karma Bhava, they are met with Cancer, ruled by the moon. Here, the social negotiator is called into emotional leadership. The peacemaker must grow roots, and public success must be anchored in care, not just charisma. Cancer in the 10th house asks Libra Rising to turn outward polish into inward presence. Career and status are no longer about social elegance. They become fields of emotional responsibility. Recognition comes not from popularity, but from their ability to hold space, protect others, and lead with compassion. Their karma is not to perform, but to nurture, stabilize, and embody safety in the public sphere. Cancer in the 10th, the Dharma of protective presence. Cancer brings sensitivity, nourishment, and emotional intelligence to the 10th house. For Libra Rising, this means that their professional identity is less about logic and more about intuition. They rise through roles that require empathy, containment, and a deep connection to the emotional needs of others. This placement favors careers in education, healing, hospitality, real estate, public health, counseling, or community building, any work that involves caregiving, emotional support, or maternal guidance on a larger scale. Their role is to create emotional safety within institutional structures. They are here to lead, not through rules, but through feeling. Moon as Lord, the mirror must become the container. With the moon ruling this house, the Libra Rising must develop steadiness in the midst of change. If the moon is strong, they bring a nurturing presence to leadership, responsive, intuitive, and deeply supportive. If the moon is afflicted, they may face mood-driven career paths, inconsistency in recognition, or over-identification with others' needs. The growth begins when they stop mirroring expectations and start embodying purpose. When they learn that real leadership isn't reactive, it's responsive. That emotional vulnerability, when grounded, becomes their greatest tool in guiding others. From harmony to holding, the 10th house teaches Libra Rising that career is not a performance of perfection, it is a practice of presence. Cancer here softens their social ideals into soulful realism. It calls them to create containers where others feel seen, held, and safe. Public life is not about projecting confidence. It is about becoming a sanctuary in a world that often lacks one. Their impact is measured not in applause, but in the emotional imprint they leave behind. Not in status, but in trust. Activation years and turning points. The 10th house activates for Libra rising at ages 10, 22, 34, 46, 58, 70, and 82. These years often initiate emotional maturity through public responsibility, career shifts that awaken nurturing capacities or call them to steward others. At 22 or 34, they may step into healing or supportive professions. At 46 or 58, they are tested in how they balance care with authority. Can they lead without losing softness? Each phase invites them deeper into emotional intelligence, not as a personal gift, but as a public responsibility. From balance to belonging. Ultimately, Cancer in the 10th house teaches Libra Rising that true karma lies not in keeping appearances, but in keeping people whole. That leadership must be felt, not just seen, and that professional purpose is fulfilled not when they are admired, but when others feel at home in their presence. This is the journey where the diplomat becomes the caregiver, where refinement gives way to responsibility, and where Libra Rising, long attuned to keeping peace, learns that their real power lies in making others feel protected in a world that often forgets how to care. The 10th house, or Karma Bhava, career, status, public life, Libra Rising, Part 2. 8 most defining conjunctions in Cancer, where grace must become ground and public power emerges from emotional depth. For Libra Rising, the 10th house lies in Cancer, a moon-ruled realm of feeling, protection, and intuitive response. This is where the aesthetic, social, and externally balanced Libra must embrace emotional complexity and internal responsibility. Career isn't just about status or polish, it becomes about holding space. These 8 conjunctions in Cancer reflect defining karmic transitions where public life demands not just diplomacy, but devotion. For Libra Rising, the journey is to become a container of care, not just a mirror of ideals. Moon and Sun harmonize leadership or emotional overexposure. This pairing blends the personal Sun with the emotional mind, Moon, in the field of public life. For Libra Rising, it can create natural authority that feels warm, nurturing, and protective. If benefic, they become visible caregivers, healing leaders, or trusted figures in service-driven professions. If afflicted, they may struggle with emotional inconsistency, public hypersensitivity, or neediness for validation. Karma strengthens when they learn to lead from wholeness, not from the desire to be seen, but the need to support. Moon and Venus, soft power or emotional overattachment. A deeply refined conjunction, this combination brings warmth, artistic grace, and a strong love for comfort and belonging. For Libra Rising, it enhances potential for careers in art therapy, education, interior design, hospitality, or counseling. If benefic, it lends emotional tact and magnetic kindness. If afflicted, they may get too emotionally entangled in professional roles or allow sentimentality to cloud boundaries. They evolve when they realize that love in public life must include self-regulation, not just softness. Moon and Mercury, emotional intelligence or mental restlessness. This thoughtful blend sharpens communication of feelings and empathetic leadership. For Libra Rising, it supports careers in psychotherapy, teaching, social work, or wellness journalism. If benefic, they become translators of emotion, those who speak from the heart but with clarity. If afflicted, it can lead to overanalysis of feelings, mood-driven communication, or scattered public messaging. Dharma crystallizes when they trust their voice, but anchor it in the present, not in passing tides. Moon and Mars, protective force or reactive leadership. This fiery pairing energizes emotional courage and instinctual action. For Libra Rising, it may push them into protective roles, emergency response, military command, maternal activism, or emotionally intense leadership. If benefic, they act with integrity and bravery when others retreat. If afflicted, it may bring emotional impulsivity, defensiveness in public life, or aggressive nurturing. Karma integrates when they learn to act from emotional wisdom, not from emotional urgency. Moon and Jupiter, devotional leadership or idealistic overload. This expansive conjunction elevates nurturing into guidance. For Libra Rising, it opens pathways in education, healing arts, cultural preservation, or spiritual counseling. If benefic, they become nurturing philosophers, those who protect meaning, family values, and collective trust. If afflicted, it may cause emotional overcommitment, martyrdom, or spiritual bypassing in career. Their evolution begins when they realize that they don't have to overextend to be meaningful. Stability is as sacred as generosity. Moon and Saturn, emotional maturity or suppressed sensitivity. This heavy but potentially stabilizing conjunction introduces restraint, responsibility, and depth into public expression. For Libra Rising, it supports roles in administration, elder care, public policy, or emotional labor within structured systems. If benefic, it builds inner strength, respect, and enduring legacy. If afflicted, it may suppress feelings, create fear of recognition, or manifest as emotionally cold professionalism. Dharma ripens when they allow themselves to feel and lead. Knowing that vulnerability doesn't weaken duty, it dignifies it. Moon and Rahu, public empath or emotional overexposure. This amplified combination intensifies emotional craving for recognition or mission. For Libra Rising, it can thrust them into public roles involving care, healing, or social trends, sometimes through crisis or unusual means. If benefic, they become emotionally magnetic professionals, trusted in their capacity to feel and respond. If afflicted, it may bring instability, mood-driven ambition, or emotional entanglement with fame. Growth happens when they ground their instincts and allow emotional authenticity to guide, not control their rise. Moon and Ketu, soulful service or career dissolution. This minimalist and spiritual conjunction strips away emotional neediness in favor of surrender. For Libra Rising, it favors careers in hospice, spiritual caregiving, healing sanctuaries, or behind-the-scenes nurturing. If benefic, it offers a deep sense of detachment, intuitive care, and timeless wisdom. If afflicted, it may cause apathy, disconnection from public life, or confusion about one's path. Dharma integrates when they accept that their most powerful service may not be seen, but it is felt at the soul level. In summary, Cancer in the 10th house softens Libra Rising's public path into one of emotional gravity. These conjunctions teach that leadership is not just about appearances, but about containment, intuition, and care. Their karma is to become a vessel, for others, for meaning, for healing, not a reflection of perfection. This is where the peacemaker becomes the protector, where the host becomes the healer, and where Libra Rising, once driven by elegance, learns that the greatest grace is found in becoming a steady heart in an unsteady world. The 10th house, Karma Bhava, career, status, public life, Aquarius Rising, Part 1. The visionary that must ground innovation in legacy. Aquarius Rising enters the world as a seeker of progress, disruption, and future-forward change. Ruled by Saturn and co-ruled by Rahu, these natives carry a paradox, the discipline of structure and the obsession with reinvention. Their journey is collective. They are often ahead of their time, invested in systems, reforms, and humanitarian ideals. But when it comes to the 10th house, Karma Bhava, they must move through Scorpio, ruled by Mars and co-ruled by Ketu. Here, the rational reformer must enter the terrain of emotional power, transformation, and intensity. Scorpio in the 10th house challenges Aquarius Rising to meet the world not just through intellect or systems, but through depth, willpower, and karmic intensity. Public life becomes an arena of profound change. What begins as innovation must become integration, not just of ideas, but of inner power. Their career path is not about ease or recognition, it's about endurance through crisis, and a capacity to hold the darker, more complex currents of collective evolution. Scorpio in the 10th, the Dharma of inner alchemy in outer impact. Scorpio brings secrecy, transformation, and emotional depth into the house of karma. For Aquarius Rising, this means their professional Dharma will not unfold through predictability. Their public identity may go through multiple incarnations, phases of death, reinvention, and personal power tests. They must learn to lead through pressure, to remain rooted during upheaval, and to use their emotional intelligence strategically. This placement supports careers in research, psychology, healing, forensics, finance, crisis management, investigation, or metaphysical sciences, any role where intensity, complexity, and deep trust are required. Their work is not light. It is designed to probe, heal, and sometimes expose what others avoid. Mars as Lord, the strategist must become the warrior. With Mars as the primary ruler of the 10th house, Aquarius Rising must integrate courage, initiative, and psychological grit into their professional ethos. If Mars is strong, they are fearless change agents, capable of confronting the uncomfortable and transforming entire systems. If Mars is afflicted, they may fear conflict, face career volatility, or try to control outcomes through manipulation or avoidance. The growth comes when they accept that disruption must also include emotional ownership, that to hold power, they must walk through fire. And that public recognition is not given, it is forged through crises survived and truth confronted. From ideals to impact. The 10th house teaches Aquarius Rising that transformation is not theoretical, it is personal and karmic. Scorpio here insists they descend before they ascend, that their legacy is not about fame, but about depth, healing, and fearless engagement with life's shadowed layers. Career becomes a rite of passage, not a ladder. It tests not just their intelligence, but their integrity, not just their vision, but their stamina. Activation years and turning points. The 10th house activates for Aquarius Rising at ages 10, 22, 34, 46, 58, 70, and 82. These years often bring emotional trials within professional arenas, loss, betrayal, breakthroughs, or transformations that alter their public trajectory. At 22 or 34, they may rise through intense focus or face a major pivot. At 46 or 58, they become figures of authority in deep, strategic domains. Each activation draws them closer to the power they are meant to wield, not by force, but by earning the right to carry it. From disruption to depth. Ultimately, Scorpio in the 10th house teaches Aquarius Rising that real evolution isn't just innovation, it is integration. That true power is not just knowing what must change, but being willing to be changed in the process. And that karma is not light work, it is shadow work made public. This is the path where the futurist becomes the alchemist, where the visionary descends into reality. and where Aquarius Rising, born to rewire the world, learns that their highest influence emerges when they lead not just with mind, but with emotional mastery and fearless truth. The 10th house, or Karma Bhava, career, status, public life, Aquarius Rising, Part 2. 8 most defining conjunctions in Scorpio, where innovation must embrace intensity and career becomes a trial by transformation. For Aquarius Rising, the 10th house lies in Scorpio, a realm of psychological depth, karmic reckoning, and unflinching truth. These Saturn and Rahu-ruled natives typically prefer the realm of systems, intellect, and collective progress. But Scorpio in the 10th house demands something far more raw: emotional endurance, ethical clarity, and the willingness to descend into chaos to rise with mastery. These 8 conjunctions in Scorpio are initiations, moments when the Aquarian logic must meet instinct and status is forged in the crucible of intensity. Sun and Mars, strategic command or ego under fire. This high-voltage conjunction brings visibility and assertive will into the domain of karma. For Aquarius Rising, it creates a powerful drive to lead, to confront corruption, or to build influence through intensity. If benefic, they become fearless reformers, crisis leaders, or transformational architects of systems. If afflicted, it may produce ruthless ambition, combative public presence, or ego clashes with authority. Dharma sharpens when they lead with clarity, not domination, and when fire is directed toward reform, not conquest. Sun and Mercury, insightful executor or overactive authority. This conjunction fuses conscious intellect with identity in high-stakes public arenas. For Aquarius Rising, it can lead to success in investigative journalism, forensic science, research, or institutional reform. If benefic, they express transformative ideas with control and confidence. If afflicted, it may cause micromanagement, overexposure, or obsessive analysis of public image. Growth emerges when they realize that truth-telling doesn't require control. It requires conviction with transparency. Mars and Mercury, surgical precision or mental combativeness. This intellectually aggressive pairing empowers cutting logic and fast execution. For Aquarius Rising, it supports careers in crisis management, strategy, politics, or analytics where high pressure and insight collide. If benefic, they are problem solvers with intuitive accuracy. If afflicted, it can produce burnout, verbal aggression, or fear of being challenged. Karma evolves when they channel intensity into clarity and speak from integration rather than urgency. Mars and Venus, magnetic intensity or power dynamics in public roles. This sensual yet forceful conjunction blends desire and will in visible life. For Aquarius Rising, it may push them toward passionate careers in transformation, creative arts, investigative activism, or psychology. If benefic, they merge beauty with boldness, creating impact through aesthetics or advocacy. If afflicted, it may result in power games, manipulative charm, or workplace entanglements. Dharma integrates when they use charisma to uplift, not entrap, and when passion is backed by ethics. Sun and Ketu, silent authority or disconnected drive. This subtle and spiritualizing conjunction strips ego from visibility. For Aquarius Rising, it may lead to unexpected detachment from career ambitions or a quiet form of leadership that does not seek attention. If benefic, they are wise, discreet professionals, respected for substance over style. If afflicted, it can create career confusion, invisibility, or subconscious sabotage. Dharma clarifies when they embrace inner mastery as their true status and let go of craving to be recognized. Mars and Ketu, warrior of truth or rogue disruptor. This volatile combination intensifies action through detachment and instinct. For Aquarius Rising, it supports careers in spiritual activism, occult research, surgical arts, or karmic repair work. If benefic, they act without ego, serving transformation with fearless clarity. If afflicted, it may cause reactionary behavior, avoidance of responsibility, or destructive disengagement. Growth deepens when they move from cutting ties in anger to severing illusions with wisdom. Sun and Rahu, spotlighted reformer or egoic upheaval. This fame-attracting conjunction places the Aquarian's karma under a blinding light. For Aquarius Rising, it may result in sudden elevation in government, media, or reformist fields. If benefic, they become symbols of revolution, those who carry collective transformation. If afflicted, it brings identity inflation, false confidence, or public downfall from ambition misaligned with integrity. Their evolution occurs when they realize that influence is sacred and must be rooted in soul, not spectacle. Mercury and Rahu, revolutionary intellect or crisis of ideas. This mentally supercharged conjunction pushes Aquarius rising toward controversial, cutting-edge, or taboo subjects. It supports careers in investigative journalism, tech security, metaphysical systems, or disruptive communication platforms. If benefic, they become radical voices for truth. If afflicted, it can lead to paranoia, obsession with mental control, or manipulation of facts. Dharma stabilizes when they use words to illuminate, not incite, and when intellect serves awakening, not domination. In summary, Scorpio in the 10th house pushes Aquarius rising beyond theory into transformation. These conjunctions reveal that status isn't granted by innovation alone, it is earned by walking through fire. For these natives, karmic success comes not by avoiding the uncomfortable, but by mastering the deep, often hidden forces that shape society. This is where the thinker becomes the truth bearer, where the rebel becomes the reformer, and where Aquarius rising, born to imagine a better future, learns that to truly change the world, they must first endure and transform through the shadows of the one they were born into.